2000s. Just last night I was talking to a gentleman, Vietnam veteran, who had served during the same time that my dad and Dave Corso had served. That's a whole other story. I don't know if I told you that my dad and Dave served with each other.
Yeah, I know. And there's like so many synchronicities that is so, I mean, that's completely bizarre. Not only are you connected to Corso and Duncan, but your father is connected to Corso at least. And I mean, that in and of itself is just, like, where does this come from? This is so bizarre.
Well, as far as my family, it's absolute bloodline. I mean, I just recently got some information that I have not yet confirmed, but I did get some fairly good information that my grandfather, who died under mysterious causes, no autopsy, no funeral, was a high military or government member in some aspect of Operation Paperclip, who was one of the officials that was assigned in relocating the German Nazi scientists. No, I'm not.
Well, that actually points to why you may have ended up where you did.
And my father and my sister.
Right, yeah, your sister.
But I have no knowledge of if my older brother was at all. I don't think he was. But I do fear that he may be drawn in because of his direct connections with NASA, and he's climbed up the ranks in the scientific field. You know, he was diagnosed with autism as a kid, but his IQ was off the charts, and you know, he is 32 now, and he's got his like PhD in astronomical physics, nanotechnology. He works at Lamar University. He's the youngest novice curator of the Houston Astronomical Society. He also runs 5 different observatories and rubs elbow with top NASA individuals.
Okay, but I have to say that indicates that he is part of the whole scene.
Yes, I do agree.
He may not know
but he may not know it.
You know, maybe there aren't, you know, maybe he hasn't been really, populated in terms of some of the ways that you have buried memories, etc. But what you're telling me about his background is just unequivocal. He, especially, actually, believe it or not, with autism.
Yes.
Because autism is sort of a marker that they use.
Project 13.
Yeah, we were talking about that. And let's talk about that, because that'll be really fascinating.
And I think I don't know if I mentioned you that I have absolute confirmation that my sister has 3 children. The oldest one, Baden, is a contactee. Absolute. Yeah. But I can tell you what my sister actually witnessed and saw him do. We can talk about that another time, but it is absolutely amazing. I did let Miriam Delicato know, and I told her what my sister had said. And Miriam, of course, said, this child needs to be protected, be careful who, and then I explained, to my sister what Miriam had said. So, things are...
That's actually a good thing.
Yeah. I'm actually going to be getting my sister in contact with Miriam.
Cool. Very good. I wasn't actually sure how to categorize you. Not specifically a super soldier that I know of, but maybe, and you know what I'm saying? I wanted you to categorize yourself. And
sure.
So why don't you just go ahead, introduce yourself, and basically explain not only who you are, what briefly, like your credentials, whatever you
Absolutely.
call that, but then also say why you're coming forward at this time.
Okay. Well, my name is Aaron Egan McCullum. I was born September 6, 1978. And I was in the military. I served in the United States Coast Guard for just roughly 10 years, right at the 10-year mark. And I was involved in many different Black Op projects all over the world, and even many stateside. I had climbed up the ranks very quickly to where I became a team member of a first-of-its-kind unit in the Coast Guard, which is known publicly, but a lot of the operations they do, or most of what they do, are not well known. If I had to classify myself, it would be that I'm third-generation Project Talent, and because of the bloodline I came from, I was given a lot of responsibility and saw a lot of things and even since that time have been called back for specific operations. I mean, to really explain who I am, it would be good for the more extended interview to really explain that. But obviously, I'm coming out today for the first time, really publicly, to explain about information that I have through absolute reliable contacts, which I cannot name for their safety, but involving what's going on in the Gulf of Aden in Yemen. Specifically, what the global leader are doing, and the Stargate, which is absolutely real. It's not fantasy, which, like Carrie, you and I have talked about many times. Things you see in movies are put there as a ruse to automatically give this label of fantasy, science fiction, so that people will not dig in anymore and they'll live in their little world of it's make-believe.
Okay, that's great. So you were a member of the Coast Guard, but you also ended up not only working in these sort of teams of special ops units, for lack of a better title, but you were the leader. Isn't that true? Yes,
and Project Talent has really two sides. They have the people that never were in the military, civilians, but worked directly in the military, even sometimes wear military uniforms, but never went to boot camp. They have their own side of that. Duncan, for example, Duncan O'Finian, who never really went to boot camp, but, was absolutely Project Talent. Then there are people like me. This is where it gets a little complicated. I did not choose the branch of service. When I was 16, certain individuals, agents, came to me and told me which branch of the military I was going in and when it would happen. So I already knew 2 years before joining. So I was in the military. I got regular military training. But at times when I would be temporarily assigned, it's called TAD, temporary assignment duty, to other units, I wasn't actually doing what was known by my commanding officer or whomever at the time. I was actually increasing my training that I had started when I was very young. So I wore two hats. There was times when I was Petty Officer McCullum, worked my way up to being, a chief engineer on ships and doing special op rescue, drug interdiction, whatever. And then I had the other hat where I was just an agent. No name, no denomination of rank, nothing.
So when you say you're doing that, are you meaning that you, you would not carry any papers of identification on you?
Absolutely not. No ID. Couldn't even wear a watch. Nothing.
Okay. And on those assignments, is that where your sort of buried memories are coming back in regard to those assignments?
Honestly, it's happening on both sides because, like I said, it's kind of complicated, but let me try to explain as best as I can. I did a lot of operations where I just wore my Coast Guard hat, and I was, Petty Officer McCullum, but I was actually leading umbrella operations that actually had a black operation happening underneath that I was tied to. So they would have me close to that so that I would be able to infiltrate and do my other job that was assigned to me. So with that, because there was such intertwining of operations, a lot of it is foggy on both sides.
Okay. So let's see, because it's really easy for me to go down this rabbit hole with you and start following, out your personal remembrances. But I think that today's interview, at least for the first part, and let's do this first. Let's talk about the Gulf of Aden and why you're specifically coming forward now before we do a more formal interview that has been planned actually for several weeks. And so let's talk about the most crucial stuff that you want to get out there right away. And then we can digress from there, and then we can later decide what to cut in and what to cut out.
Okay. let me just make this statement. I want to make this perfectly clear. What I'm about to let everyone know is based on actual facts, articles, also contacts, absolute reliable contacts who have contacted me within the past month, overwhelming amount of information, and this is also based directly on operations that I was a part of, that I've regained some memories back from July of 2008 until the beginning of March of 2009. Operations I was a part of absolutely relate directly to what is happening now in the Gulf of Aden. Okay, so what is occurring right now? It's actually been going on for quite a while, but it's just now, for whatever reason, it's leaked out, or they have allowed it to leak out, I should say, that there has been major military ship movement happening in the Gulf of Aden in a specific location where they are actually hundreds of ships right now circling a designated area of open water. We're talking Russian warships, Chinese warships, Japanese warships, Australia, Germany, UK. The list goes on and on. Even designated European Union ships, UN ships, Blackwater, which is now Z, has a ship there right now. If anybody is aware, Japan has not actually had warships leave their area of operation for military type action in decades. Same with China. China is very much about keeping their warships close. So this is huge. On top of it, there is a research company that specifically deals in genetics and DNA. I don't remember the name at this time, but Carrie, when I get that information to you, you will have that are specifically doing research in alien human DNA research with the genetics. That is going on at the same time there as well. On top of it, there has been a lot of this. There's a lot of piracy going on there. Well, these pirates, the Somali pirates and all that, it's absolutely false flag operations. The reason they're doing that is to gain fear of, everyone in that area, to keep them away. It's a very good manageable method to keep just regular people, the public, away from that area. Because, what's a better way to invoke fear but piracy and terrorism? That comes to what happened at Fort Hood.
Okay, before we go there, just to clarify, because you, as a member of the Coast Guard, anything that happens on water is obviously something that you're quite well versed in.
Absolutely.
And so we want to talk about the source of your information, and because of that, we also want to talk about some of your sort of skills and augmented skills. Sure. Okay, because this is going to factor in, I assume.
Absolutely.
And the other thing is that you're saying that there is genetic engineering going on. What are you talking about? Are you talking about on a ship in the middle of the water, or where the Stargate is located? Because I understand the Stargate is over over the body of water.
It is, and there's witness testimony, and there are images of. They're calling it an anomaly and a huge magnetic field that is occurring right there at that location. They're calling it an anomaly, they're giving it labels, where the water is actually in a swirling motion. It's actually causing a huge whirlpool effect.